Hi, I'm Lena Rao. Welcome to our Ask a VC show here at TechCrunch TV, where we put VCs in the hot seat. Today we're joined by Noah Doyle, Managing Director of Javelin Venture Partners. Noah, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to the studio. I want to go into your bio just a little bit before we get into the questions. But you previously worked at mapping tech company Keyhole, which was acquired by Google. You then spent 4 years managing enterprise products at Google Maps and Google Earth before becoming a full-time early stage investor. I think what our readers were sort of curious about is that you were an angel investor previous to joining Keyhole. And then, of course, after Google, you decided to found your own venture firm. Why did you decide to go into venture full-time and actually raise a fund?
Great question. Yeah, I actually started angel investing even before I got involved in Keyhole. Keyhole was an angel investment before I got to know the company. And the first company that I founded, a company called mypoints.com, went public and was acquired by United Airlines. After that, I kind of naturally through my network was approached by entrepreneurs who were kind of asking for advice and support, and started doing some angel investing that way. And I actually had always enjoyed investing, found it to be engaging. It had led to Keyhole, which was a fantastic experience, and thought taking it to the next step made a lot of sense. I somewhat mistakenly thought that angel investing and venture capital as a profession and a institution had a lot in common, and really learned that they're quite different.
What's different about them?
The main difference really is that with angel investing, you're not as return focused. So, you invest in people, good ideas. You hope to make some money. You hope some of them work out well. It's, for most people, most angel investors, it's a small portion of their net worth. And, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You learned something, you met some new people, you were part of something exciting. You get the tax write-off later.
Right, that's right. Yeah. Well, so now that you're a VC, what are the challenges of your day-to-day job?
So I think that's exactly the point. Is as a VC, you're definitely held to the standards of the expectations of your limited partners, and really it has to work, and you have to have some process around it. I think one of the initial big differences is that you start seeing a ton more opportunities. So most of your time, if not much of your time in the early stages of starting a fund, is really evaluating new companies and trying to get a sense of what makes sense and what kind of stage and kind of sectors you want to play in. So that really took about a year, I would say, of getting the fund going and kind of getting into a groove. And the other is you're investing more money, so each transaction, you really have to do due diligence. You have to really think about the terms. So, that whole side of the business definitely had a learning curve associated with it.
Was it interesting going from, going from startups where you were raising money for yourself to then going into a position where you're raising money for a fund? Was it similar in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think it's really not that similar, actually. I think when you're raising money, you think two things. One is, it must be really easy to be on the other side of the table giving money away. And the other you think is, you kind of idealize that role and think, oh, that would be great, to be able to just pick what you want to do, and it must be, just a lot of fun. Right. And I think that part of it is that the way in which early stage funding happens is a lot of it is so timing dependent. A given kind of company, or given kind of opportunity and team in a sector comes along not that often. So everything has to be kind of aligned just right for an investment to happen. And it's, of course, it's a team effort, right, with a partnership. So early on, I recruited Jed Katz, who's my senior partner in Javelin, to join the fund. And what that means is that you get a whole nother set of perspectives, and that helps you to really focus. And at the same time, it means that you have to have more steps in the process. So I think that as an entrepreneur, it really was, in looking back on it, it was actually a great way to help build a network and also help reflect on how to make the business better. And I think I learned a lot from that process and helped build the network that is really helpful today.
That's great.
On the other hand, I don't think it taught me very much about being a VC and investing.
Well, a couple of our readers were really fascinated by your experience in mapping, and that's certainly a huge topic these days with the innovations happening around Google Maps and even Apple and their mapping. What do you think is the next innovation in mapping?
Well, I think mapping is going down a couple of different paths. The first is it's becoming a whole lot more personalized, and that's really going to be driven off of both search and social networking. We recently made a seed investment in a company called SpotSetter, which just last week actually launched their app on the App Store, and they provide a way to give a much greater in-depth view of all of your social network activity laid out on a map and present search results based on your personal preferences of what your first degree network thinks about a location. So when you're trying to decide what to do, where to hang out, where to shop, where to find something, you're going to be able to search and see based on where you are, where you want to go, what your friends have done and think about and comment about.
And there's a big value in that because you're seeing more and more companies. Like, for example, I was on TripAdvisor recently and I connected with Facebook and it said, so-and-so has visited this hotel. There's some social proof in booking this because, this person may know, their hotels very well or they like a certain type of hotel. What are the challenges in layering those social signals on top of maps?
Yeah, well, the first challenge really is combination of just technical and accessing the data. So to find that data, it's actually a pretty involved process because you're talking about roughly 1 million points for the average user. If you have 130 friends and each of those friends has done a kind of average pace of commenting and check-ins, you're talking about a very large data set. So then you multiply that by all the users and you end up with really a big data type of problem. And that's where the SpotSetter team actually has really strong back-end skills. They're combining 3 different cloud services. They're taking a really smart approach to this. And still it actually takes several hours to crawl that data set and make some sense of it before it's even presentable. So it's not an easy problem to solve.
I mean, it's interesting. The product that you worked on, Google Maps. I mean, that's dominant. It's certainly a widely used product. Is there room for another mapping product to enter into the space and still be able to have a viral effect?
Well, I think there is always room for a better user experience, right? Especially one that's highly personalized because once you've adopted it, you're going to want to stick with that. I think companies like SpotSetter have the opportunity to build on top of Google Maps, which is great. So you don't have to rebuild the base layer. You can really add value above that, and that's definitely where the new innovations will happen. They'll be augmenting the core services.
Right. Well, so it sounds like Google's already created this core foundation for mapping that no one can really do again. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think probably.
Yeah.
Each large brand, it is as clear from the Apple case, right?
Yeah.
It sees that they need to own those base services as well, so that they can also, control how, or at least build an ecosystem on top of them and keep the user engaged, in their own environment. There's a limit to how many people are really going to want to do that because it is a huge investment, takes a lot of time, and there's obviously a significant quality control effort needed to make the experience, a good one.
So besides mapping, what are you excited about?
Well, I think one other mapping technology that I think is really cool, really interesting is a company called Indoor Atlas that comes out of Scandinavia. They're using the compass on the phone to find the magnetic signature in a building to do indoor location. So if you're the first time user of the product, you can help map out where you are, and then that data can get shared with other users. So it'll be a way to really facilitate a lot of the mobile commerce inside malls and inside stores. It potentially can get as specific as 1 foot, so you could even do product location in a store. So I think that's a really interesting one to watch. It's still very early.
And that's sort of interesting because it ties into what retail stores and sort of the commerce angle of what they can do with technology, using mapping or using your mobile phone.
Definitely. I think mobile increasingly is changing the way in which a lot of products are taken to market. And it is a user interface challenge. And however, it's not as simple as just a better presentation layer. You actually have to change how the product works to enable the mobile benefit to be presented to the user. One example is a company that I'm mentoring on the Berkeley Skydeck campus, the Skydeck incubator on the Berkeley campus. And it's a company called Simple But Necessary, or Simple But Needed rather, SBN. And they've developed a mobile system for safety inspectors and safety professionals to automate their workflow. And it turns out that someone who is a safety professional does a lot of inspections. They go to a lot of places. They're in industrial settings. They're in the basements of buildings, making sure that important equipment, valuable equipment that can be dangerous has been properly configured and that needs to be inspected periodically. And they spend half of their time doing paperwork. So these well-paid professionals really are actually only doing their job half the time. So SBN has come up with a way to let them use their iPhone to track everything they do, take pictures, and then very quickly, just with kind of point and click, finger punching, do the vast majority of the paperwork that they need to do. And it yields, it's got a great direct ROI. So it's just an example of, it's not necessarily a complex computer science problem. It's really a problem of great design meets a workflow and yields significant benefits.
Well, that's a great way to end and good advice for any entrepreneurs that are out there watching. Thanks so much, Noah.
My pleasure. Thank you.